In my review for the Rapido LNWR Diagram 88 box wagon, I briefly highlighted a lack of LNWR bogie coach stock in 00 gauge ready to run form. Just before that video went live, the universe revealed some via Rapido's new range of upcoming generic evolution coaches, and then after the video went live, Bachmann announced their new range of LNWR arc roof coaches. While welcome additions, the pricing left a lot to be desired, with Rapido's coaches costing £69.95 a piece, and Bachmann's coaches costing a heart attack inducing £109.95 per coach. It was very much a case of be careful what you wish for, and left my wallet with a conundrum that ensured certain pain. In the end, I could only bring myself to order one of each. Despite being announced second, Bachmann's LNWR bogie coach offering turned up first. I got mine with a slight discount at £93.45 from Rails of Sheffield. Still a hefty price, though I tried to keep an open mind. The coach arrived in typical Bachmann packaging, a box and internal blister packaging. Of the 5 different tooling variations in Bachmann's new LNWR coach range, I had to weigh up what I could afford with what would be most useful to me. I ended up going for product code 39-860, the tri-composite coach that gave me a bit of first, second and third class. Inside the box there were 2 accessory packs, one containing pipes, alternative close couplers and a corridor connector cover. The other contained gas pipes. Nowhere on the instruction sheet does it mention lighting, which I would have expected to be included given the extortionate recommended retail price of these coaches. Coaches costing a third cheaper from other manufacturers have lighting as standard. In the flesh though, it has to be said the coach does look absolutely fantastic. The dark claret and white livery with gold lining is executed and presented flawlessly. The lining is fine, straight, and the panelling and window frames are picked out excellently in their respective shades of brown. The collaboration and research undertaken with the LNWR Society really shines through, capturing an authentic look for what is known about these historic coaches. Bachmann boasts that more than 175 individual components were used to craft these coaches, depending on which one you go for in the range. These include things such as the turtle ventilators on the roof, and the ventilators above the windows and doors. Inside the windows, brass handrails are fitted to the glazing rather than having them be a painted feature. The door handles are also said to be brass etchings with ornate wire grab handles, but these are far less noticeable and I do wonder why they bothered. I would have been happy with moulded handles incorporated into the body shells to save design, assembly and material costs. These are expensive coaches, and unlike the internal handrails, I can't tell the door handles are brass at all. The buffers are also made of turned brass, and etched lampines picked out in white can also be found on the coach ends. The corridor connectors are excellently moulded and shaped, but they do stick out quite far compared to other coaches and appear bulbous and obtrusive. I'd have preferred if they were modelled in a different position, and rectifying this will require them to be pulled off the body with the risk of glue marks and paint damage. Perhaps this is prototypical. I am far more familiar with LNWR engines and freight wagons than coaches. Going back to the livery, the letterings and emblems decorating the coach are extraordinarily fine and well applied. Everything is crisp and clear despite the minute scale and positioning, even on the windows. The alignment and employment of specialist printing techniques by Bachmann really pays off here. Under the body, the bogies have received meticulous modelling attention, featuring wooden centred LNWR wheels, all the suspension components and footboards. One of the couplings does look like it's drooping though, so that will be tested later. The axles are fitted in metal bearings which will ensure long-term free rolling ability and reduce wear and tear. Most puzzling of all though is the provision of electrical connections that would enable the incorporation of lighting and other powered features. Why on earth did Bachmann do this but then decide not to include lighting with it? LEDs are not that expensive, and given the price of these coaches and the fact that Bachmann went to the effort of making lighting viable, you'd think it'd make sense to just include lights as well. Given the asking price, This does feel, to me at least, like they cheaped out and tried to offer the customer a halfway house, leaving the other expense and wiring task up to them. As Bachmann have not provided lighting at all, I'd rather they left the electrical connections out and shaved some money off the asking price to reflect this saving. But here we are, expensive coaches with electrical provisions, but no electronics to speak of. The coupling design at least features NEM pockets that can turn with the coach bogies to avoid any clashes on curves, which is a useful feature. Between the bogies is a raft of underframe parts, much of which is separately fitted, including a lengthy footboard which felt quite thin to the touch, so this is a delicate piece to look out for during handling. There is also plenty of truss rodding, gas and brake piping, which I assume is equally as delicate. Inside the coach, Bachmann say they have replicated the seating and compartment partitions, including the doors, the toilet, and even the hand basin. Unfortunately, the instructions do not outline how one accesses the interior to fit figures or admire these details. The roof does not appear to come off, and there's no clues as to how the body can be removed from the chassis. Given the cost of this coach, I'm not going to go trying to prise it apart blindly. Thus, all of this extra effort and detail seems somewhat of a waste and pointless, bumping the cost of these coaches up in an unnecessary way. I personally won't be contemplating the quality of the lavatory I cannot see as this goes around the layout, so why Bachmann feel the need to include it, I don't know. Maybe there's an attraction there I'm just not seeing, but I doubt it. On the scales, the tri-composite LNWR coach comes in at 130 grams, which is 9 grams less than a modern Hornby British Rail Mark I coach. It is, however, 50 grams more than a similarly sized pre-grouping bogie coach, like Hornby's now decades-old Great Western Clerestory coach. Thus, there's definitely more heft to the LNWR Art coach. Back-to-back wheel gauging comes in at 14.5 to 14.6mm, which is close to the standard and consistent. Overall, there's a lot of positives to this model, especially in how it's decorated and built. But there's also the lack of lighting for how much this costs, and a lack of clear instructions for how to access all the internal details that are to be appreciated. To me at least, this does well at being a top tier decorated coach, but it's definitely not putting its money where its wheels are. Let's see if that changes at all down on the track. As expected, thanks to the metal bearings, this coach is nice and free rolling, without any self-imposed friction due to poorly fitted axles or poorly shaped wheels. The quality is top notch. Now to test the coach in an actual train. At the head we have Bachmann's LNWR Improved Precedent, number 790 Hardwick, a jewel of the National Collection and the perfect engine to pair with this coach. At the rear we have Rapido's LNWR D88 Boxwagon, again representing the one in the National Collection. Time to test the couplings. Despite a rogue raised hook on the Rapido van, the Bachmann coach has coupled up perfectly well and is holding true. Now for the points test. These are Pico Code 100 streamline points. And there were no issues there, in forwards or reverse. Baseball joins now. And the ARC coach runs flawlessly. The final test is the loop around the layout. The first curved ball join hasn't thrown it. and neither has the one on the other side of the layout, making for a clear run. So the performance of this coach can't be faulted, but that doesn't really help justify the price. Much cheaper coaches run this well as well. I love the prototype and the execution of it in miniature, and would definitely like a full train of all the coach diagrams Bachmann are doing, but I can't bring myself to do that from a responsible financial standpoint. It's a shame honestly, as there's a lot to admire. I'm fortunate enough to be able to afford one of these coaches, but others who are less fortunate and more frugal than myself may be forced to bypass Bachmann's LNWR coach range entirely. Bachmann certainly could have made these more accessible or better value, but haven't. On to my final verdict. Decoration. This is exquisitely done. The dark claret and white livery looks rich and well applied. The LNWR emblems, window stickers, and the painting of all the separately fitted details looks crisp with no colours out of place. The eloquence of the intricate pre-grouping livery is fantastically captured. This criterion gets a thumbs up from me. Details and features. This coach is fabulously equipped with separate parts, prototypical details and accessory packs. Though the bogies are primed for electrical connections to employ lighting or other electrical features, none are actually provided. In the context of what Bachmann is asking for these coaches, this is a massive omission considering what other cheaper modern coaches come with. Premium coaches without premium features kills this for me unfortunately. The lack of instructions or diagrams on how to access the interior detail safely inhibits how much I could enjoy this model, and what I would be happy to do to it in terms of fitting lighting and passengers. These detriments are too big for me to overlook and are things I'm not happy about, so I'm deducting this point despite all the other good features on display here. Quality. Overall, this is great. The axle bearings are a great quality inclusion, and there were no loose details in the packaging. The footboards though did feel thin to the touch when handling the coach, so this and the other underframe detail are areas to handle carefully and consciously. On the whole though, there was nothing to really complain about. I'm happy with how well the coach is built. Performance. Quick and easy. This was faultless, smooth and reliable. It coupled well, handled points and baseball joints without drama, and ran well in a train. The coach scores an easy 3rd point here. And finally, onto price, where I may begin to sound like a broken record, but it's a big point. I love how this looks, and how this runs, but without any lighting there is no way this should be priced at £109.95 at full price. All I can think of that may contribute to this price is the extensive research and design to incorporate a lot of separate parts. Other manufacturers are turning out accurate coaches for less than £80, some less than £70. Why this should cost £50 more than that just completely eludes me. Affording one of these required me to cancel existing pre-orders elsewhere, and everything about purchasing this coach required hefty financial planning and a real weigh up of the benefits and trade-offs. Buying all of these coaches and an engine to pull them costs well above £700 at retail prices, which is just not accessible for most. I gave Bachmann the benefit of the doubt and dived in to buy one coach to try, but they failed to convince me that this is worth the money despite all its merits. That's another point knocked off. That leaves the Bachmann LNWR coach with a score of 3 out of 5, making it a model I can recommend with caveats. Those caveats being the lack of lighting, the poor instructions on how to access the interior, and the eye-watering price. Whether the coaches in the LNWR livery stick around long enough to end up discounted remains to be seen, but I'll be voting with my wallet and not purchasing any more, despite how nice they are. So, what do you think of Bachmann's LNWR ARC coaches? Value for money remains a hot topic in the hobby, so let me know how you feel about the full price of these down in the comments. I'm glad I have an LNWR coach now, as the company is underrepresented in ready-to-run markets. But do they really need to cost this much? Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all again in another video very soon. Take care.